Most of you listen to my podcast because you are excited to find something that is different, that's countercultural, that's good for you, and speaks to you in a way that just isn't normal these days. Knowing that, today we need to take it a step further. Whether or not you are inclined to be politically active or follow politics or even pay attention to politics, there are some things happening right now that you must be aware of as a mom who loves your babies and wants the best for their physical health. I want to talk to you about it today because we as Christians can't just be silent bystanders. We must get involved if we want our voice to be heard and included in the conversation. So I want to help you do that today. It doesn't cost you a thing except a little bit of your time, but it can make a huge difference in your future and the future of your children. I'm posting this a day earlier than I normally do because this is very time sensitive. So if you know some of your friends, maybe you listen usually later in the week, I need you to tell them today to go ahead and listen because this is a big deal. This is real change that you can help us make. Let's get into it. Are you a Christian woman yearning for a beautiful, joyful pregnancy and birth with a focus on God, not medical tests? Are you worried the birth you want isn't possible and you're tired of being treated like an accident waiting to happen? Hey mama, I'm Lori, host of Your Birth God's Way. I'm a certified nurse midwife now, but I wasn't always. After working for nearly 20 years in the broken maternity system, I too was in your shoes wondering how I could have the birth I wanted and that I felt God meant for me to have. I found a secret that has actually been known since the beginning of time. God's way is the best way. Spoiler alert, God made us and our babies, and He knows us best. He designed us perfectly for pregnancy, birth, and nourishing our babies after birth, if we work with His design and not against it. In this podcast, you'll learn how to be healthy and have joy during this time of life that will be over before you know it. So if you're ready to reclaim your birth and your babies for His glory, go turn on a few episodes of Bluey for that little one on your hip so you can put the focus back on you for a few minutes with me. So we're going to skip review time today because we need to get to the point. I don't want to lose anybody who gets busy and gets pulled aside, and maybe during the review time you get a little distracted. We're going to skip that. I'll get back to it next week. But this week we got some big stuff we need to get into, and I just want to get right down to it because I want you to realize what a difference that you can make this week. I get requests from you all the time wanting to know, are vaccines safe? And this is a big deal on our show because this show is all about birth, right? And we know that thing one is, as pregnant women in America, we have vaccines thrown at us right and left, and we really don't have any good evidence to tell us whether they're safe or not. And thing two, our babies are offered, or we're offered for our babies, vaccines on day one of life. And so this is a big deal to those of us who are wanting to make good decisions for our children and for ourselves. And I know that. I know that you want to do what's best for your children, but it's really hard to sort through what is true and what's not. That's why you come to me. That's why you ask me, because you're hoping that I have insight. And I do. I've read a lot more than probably most people have, and that's great and all. But when, our official sources, the government or whomever else that's known as being official, are compromised, it's really hard to know who you can trust. And that is why I am so excited about the prospect of what is happening in our government right now. We finally have a chance to get a good guy into office who has I say into office, it's a position, you know what I mean? He's long since been involved in exactly what we stand for, invested in it. He just simply wants to find the truth through real science and rejecting these things that have been given blanket approval despite no real safety studies existing. Vaccines are one of them, but there's others as well. That's not the only thing. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is who I'm talking about, and many of you probably already know that. He founded the Children's Health Defense, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and that organization exists just to help identify the causes of chronic conditions in children and try to get rid of them. We all know that kids today are suffering from things that we really never heard of or had barely heard of 40 years ago. The causes of all these things are unknown. There's lots of things that we think might cause them. Sometimes maybe they all work together, build up on each other. It's likely a multifactorial cause. But simply writing off something as not being a cause without properly studying it is potentially keeping this problem alive. And you know that, and that's why you contact me. That's why you ask me for my opinion. And up until now, it's felt very hopeless. There didn't really look to be an opportunity to make real change before now. But now, there's something going on that we actually might be able to make real change. And that includes you. We, and by we, I mean all the moms in America who have been so active in this up until now, we need your help. And we need it now, like today. Okay. I know many of you who are listening are already familiar with what I'm talking about. If you follow some of the more activist moms in the health space online, you're probably very well aware of this. But for those of you who are not, I'm going to take some time to kind of explain to you what's going on. And if you are aware and you haven't been active yet, please do hang in there because this isn't going to be a long episode. And I've got all kinds of information for you at the end that's going to help you know what to do. All right. Because my goal for this episode is that each one of you will take some time out of your day today. And yes, I mean today, to answer the call to action I'll share in just a minute. And if you're listening to this months in the future, this might still be relevant. It might still be important, but let's see, today is February the 3rd. Today is the day that you need to be active. Okay. It doesn't cost you a thing except a little bit of your time. And yes, this reaches far beyond just shots. Okay. Shots are the big thing that have been focused on in the media, but that's just one of the many things that he is interested in getting to the root of. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But here's a quick Cliff's Notes version. You remember that from school? The Cliff's Notes of like the little short version of your big long book. This is the Cliff's Notes version. I can't get it out of what's going on. All right. First of all, who is RFK Jr.? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was a Democrat for essentially all of his life. He comes from a family that has long ties to the Democrat Party, but he ran for president as an independent this past year. Then he backed out of the race, and now he has been nominated by a Republican president to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I'll lay out all the different party information so that you can see that this is not a partisan issue. This man has been on all sides of things, and he has put that aside because the health of our children is not about politics. This is health. And unfortunately, these roots of all these companies that have this monetary influence have gotten intertwined into politics because they know that's where they get their pull and their power. But he is interested in stepping back from that, getting those roots detwined, is that even a word? And getting to the root of what the problem is really. And that's what's so encouraging because we need somebody like this high up to help us get good information. He was nominated, as I said, by President Trump to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. His hearing, which was before the Senate Finance Committee, was just this past week. But the vote hasn't happened yet. And this is why this is so time sensitive. Yes, the hearing's done, but the vote isn't. So what did RFK found? He's done a lot over his career. He's been in politics for probably 40 years. But one of the big things that makes him so relevant to this world is that he founded something called the Children's Health Defense. I mentioned that earlier. Its mission, and I'm going to read from their website, it says, "Our mission is ending childhood health epidemics by eliminating toxic exposure. We will restore and protect the health of children by eliminating environmental exposures, holding responsible parties accountable, and establishing safeguards to prevent future harm of children's health." How beautiful is that? Their tagline is protecting children, exposing harms, seeking justice. All three of those things are things that we are very, very interested in as moms who are, again, just trying to sort through all this mess. And then these people who may have been profiting off of the sickness of our children, they need to be held accountable. And that's what Children's Health Defense is about. And that's what this man founded long before he was trying to be the secretary of the HHS. How he got into being so involved in vaccine safety is written out on their website in a actual transcript. And I put the link down in the show notes so you can go read through it because he explains how he initially ever even got into this world of the vaccine safety. All right, so what will RFK bring to the government that we are sorely missing? Well, he's going to bring balance and an honest approach to science. He, if you didn't know, wrote the book, The Real Anthony Fauci. I don't have it with me today, but looking into this man who declared himself to be science, don't get me started. But this book had over 1,000 references. It was so well sourced, and it really dug into the problems that all arose all around COVID. All right. Since then, he's written this book, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. If not, it's going to be linked below. It's called Vax Unvax, and it may be backwards on the video. Sorry about that. But Vax Unvax, Let the Science Speak. And this book is chock full of data and graphs. Let me try to flip through it and just show you one of the pages. Data and graphs of comparing, oh wow, interesting, the page I just flipped to, rates of postpartum hemorrhage and gestational diabetes associated with COVID-19 during pregnancy. How about that? That wasn't even what I was trying to point out. But he compares vaxxed and unvaxxed, and there are graphs after graphs after graphs, all kinds of data to help you make decisions compared to, like, looking at health problems compared to actual unvaccinated children. It's actually looking at control studies as it should have been from beginning, but most studies don't. And he explains in here how these studies were done, how you can know if they're valid and all that kind of stuff. But this book right here is excellent. It's linked below. But my point in showing you this is the work he's been involved in for years, and it's in written format. The amount of work and research that must take place to write a book like this is immense, and this man has done it. This is the kind of person that we need working on our behalf. He will undo the vast influence of the pharmaceutical companies in a way that is terrifying them, y'all. Just watch the hearing that I link below as well, and it's linked on my website that I'm going to give you the link for it in a minute. They are terrified. You will hear how viciously they were attacking him. And when Washington gets that heated, you better believe that it's because they've got something to gain. And he actually pointed that out again about one of the senators, and he got really angry. Face got all red and everything. He was very, very angry because RFK pointed out the hypocrisy of everything he was saying. Understand that the roots of Big Pharma are deeply, deeply entwined throughout Washington. And so they are not happy about RFK being there, which is why moms like me are very, very happy that he's there. So what does all this mean? Well, you've probably heard the tagline MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. So MAHA is a movement of all kinds of professionals and moms and all kinds of people tied to the nomination of RFK Jr. But let's bring this a little closer to home. They went through a process where people could nominate normal, everyday people that we know to be a part of this movement in Washington. And Dr. Stu Fishbein and Lindsay Mealis both were nominated to serve in some capacity with this movement. I shared that on my Instagram when it happened. I hope that some of you went and put your votes of support behind them. Both of them had the honor of attending the MAHA Ball in Washington, D.C. last weekend before the inauguration. So they've been there. They've met the people. They've been rubbing shoulders with some very, very influential people. And they have been given the opportunity to submit a document to the administration already, even without RFK being in yet, with their top priorities for maternity care in America. That's a huge deal because that's happening regardless of if RFK gets confirmed. But if RFK Jr. does get in, if he's confirmed as Secretary of the HHS, there is a chance that these two wonderful people will be working with him on our behalf. Think about that. Y'all know how much I admire Dr. Stu. I've had him on here twice. He is an excellent voice for us. He is an obstetrician who attended home births for many, many years, and Lindsay is a midwife, I believe in California. And both of them are huge advocates for exactly what this podcast stands for. Okay. These are the type of people that we need working for us. We've never had a real chance to have real change happen in this maternity world of ours, but we've got it now. So what can you do? This is where you come in. I hope that Cliff's Notes version gave you enough information to see that this is a big deal. If you want to know more, there's lots of information out there. You can go look for it. But this week, today actually, what I need you to do is to get on the phone and get in your email. Okay, I am releasing this episode a day early this week because, like I said, the voting hasn't started yet. I don't know when it's going to start. And if it should happen on Tuesday, then Tuesday's too late. We need to do this Monday. And as of right now, I haven't heard that they have set a date. So you've got a chance to make a difference. I want you to go to my website, go to go.yourbirthgodsway.com/MAHA. There, you're going to find a link to your senators. So you can find out the senators for your state and get their contact information, because first you need to contact them and tell them that you want them to vote in favor of RFK Jr. as the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Then there's another link to the senators who are members of the Senate Finance Committee. This is the first committee that he needs to be voted out of, meaning these people need to approve him first. These people are some of the ones that were tearing him apart. Okay, go watch the thing. You'll see which ones really need a whole lot of attention. I believe Callie Means put up a list with highlights showing you exactly who needs the most attention. One in particular I want you to focus on is Senator Cassidy. He's in there. You'll see him. Find his information. Email him, because he's the one that's really kind of on the edge. And if he goes our way, I think that's going to make a big difference. Okay. But all of these people, you can find their information on those links on my website, go.yourbirthgodsway.com/MAHA. All right. I need you to make their telephones ring. It makes a difference. When their phone is ringing off the hook and they're getting message after message after message after message, that makes a difference. Especially if these senators are in your state. Now, you can contact them even if they're not in your state, but if they know you're their constituent, make sure you tell them that. Make sure you tell them that if they don't vote in favor of RFK, that you're going to remember that come re-election time. Get in their ear. They will listen because they want to stay in Washington. And so if they think that if they don't vote for RFK, that they are going to lose their seat, if they hear enough people telling them that, they just might change their mind. Okay, this is a big deal. It actually makes a difference. And so this is what I'm asking you to do today. Okay, go to go.yourbirthgodsway.com/MAHA, find all those links, and go get busy. Go get busy. All right. Go also follow the folks like the Maha Alliance on Instagram, the Food Babe on Instagram. She was there at the hearing and she's sharing a lot of information about it. Callie Means, Casey Means, all kinds of people over there are talking about this. Go find them and follow them so that you can get timely updates on anything that needs to be done in addition to this. Okay. I know this is a little bit different than my usual podcast and the usual things that I talk about, but guys, I'm so excited for the change that might actually be making top down. Now, I mean, as far as we're concerned here on this podcast, we're going to make the right decisions for ourselves. Okay. We know we've got to get the information for ourselves. We know we got to do things like take the childbirth education course, which of course you can find on my website as well. We know we got to do those kind of things because nobody's going to do it for us. But think about what changes could be made from the top down starting now to make it a different world by the time our kids are having babies, to have all kinds of different options available, to not have so much pressure to get things injected into us that we know aren't safe. It's a big deal. So take your chance to make your voice heard. Go to my website. Links are all down in the show notes, and go shoot off some emails, make some phone calls, and get busy today. I'll see you back here next week. Real quick, if today's episode blessed you in any way, would you head over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a quick 5-star written review? It'll take you less than a minute, but it's the best thank you can give me. And it will help my show to reach more mamas just like you, so we can all find God's best for our families. I'll see you right back here in a few days.